Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I am here again. It's Thursday, and I'm starting to get really excited about being on these Facebook Lives. And the main reason is that they allow me to connect with you and connect with you about your dogs and also think about life and how we can make it better for them. And today, the topic is rather unusual. When I started to let you know that we are going to have Facebook Live on how to create good life, many of you have been actually wondering why this time it is about people. I also have some people commenting, this page should be absolutely and only about dogs. It shouldn't be about people. It shouldn't be about politics. It shouldn't be about anything else. My idea why this page has been created is a little different. I love good life. I love striving to have good life. I love learning about good life and what it means and what it doesn't mean. And I also love the fact that our dogs are healthier and happier when we are healthy and happy. So today's Facebook Live is called Give Your Life the Best Shot. And the reality is that we are extremely lucky to be alive, mainly because most people who ever lived on this planet are already dead, and we are still alive. And the statistical probability of us being alive and flying on this spaceship called Earth is very, very low. Almost no possibility of that happening, and it still happened to you and I and everyone else who's watching this Facebook Live. So we have won the biggest and the greatest lottery known to humankind. Today, I'd like to go through several different areas of creating good life. I'd like to talk about what it is and what happiness is. And I'd like to talk about how to do your life inventory and how to make the transition to a different life if you want to create it, and how to stay on course. And then in the next Facebook Live, sometimes down the road, maybe in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about a few other things, and I'll let you know what that is going to be. When I started preparing this Facebook Live, I really knew that I'm up for a challenge. Not only that I usually prepare these just on the morning of the broadcast, because I don't want to spend a whole week preparing them, but also because this topic is so complicated and so much discussed. And pretty much anyone on this planet that I know want to be happy, unless the people who want to be happy to be crabby, which is another kind of human existence. But we all want to be happy. And the question is, why so many people try to look for happiness, and why so many people say that they want to be happy, but when you look at them and when you ask them and when you have a conversation with them, they actually don't really know what happiness is. So I will try to define it here today. And I prepared a few slides here, as always. And I will share my screen here. Let me see. All right. Am I sharing now? Maybe not yet. Screen sharing failed. Of course, it has failed. Now, Alicia, can you please let me know if screen sharing is actually working?
Sure, it hasn't come through yet, but there is sometimes a slight delay. So I'll let you know as soon as it comes up.
Let me just see. It has not come through. I'm going to do the sharing a little differently, because I think that if I play the whole screen, it's not gonna show up. So you're gonna see my little mini slides on the side, which is fine. How about now, Alicia?
Yes, we can see the screen now. Thank you.
Perfect. So What is really happiness? And how can we give our life the best shot at happiness? When I started preparing this morning, I thought I'm going to look up some images of happiness, and I'm also going to look up people who look like their dogs and vice versa. And the truth is, and I said that before, that if our dogs are, we are happy and healthy, our dogs are healthy and happy. So this is to remember that we don't only choose dogs that are like us. Our dogs over time start acting, looking, and feeling like us. I almost see it as the energetic resonance. I'm not sure whether you remember teachers showing the resonance on a triangle. They hit one or tuning fork, they hit one tuning fork, and then the tuning fork in the other corner of the classroom would actually start resonating, right? If it's the same frequency. And I think that this is what happens to us when we live with other people, or to our dogs when they live with us. This is a little bit of a summary of what I said before, that I'd like to do life inventory and then prepare for the transition to stay on course for your better life. And when I looked up the term happiness online and looked for the images of happiness, the most common thing that I got was actually smiley face. And I think that happiness is a smiley face. But I'm going to ask you one thing. Smile for the next 20 minutes. Actually, smile for the next 24 hours. Actually, no, smile for the next week. I want you to smile. I want you to make your face smile. And you know where I'm heading with this. It's not going to be very pleasant. Probably after 5 minutes, you say, I don't want to smile anymore. It doesn't make me happy. And the irony of all this is that our life is actually very similar. Some of you may know that I go to Maui often, usually for the winter. That was part of my life plan. And what surprised me the most was that Maui actually has a very high percentage of really unhappy people. Actually, more unhappy people than I've witnessed in Vancouver or the Czech Republic or pretty much almost anywhere else on the planet. And if you're watching from Maui, forgive me, but this is my experience. I've seen a lot of people arriving to paradise and thinking, now all my problems are going to be gone. And they couldn't blame the circumstances anymore. They couldn't blame the weather. They couldn't blame, the lack of exciting things to do for their unhappiness. And suddenly they realize that they're still unhappy and they're in paradise. So in my mind, Maui is one of the most important learning places for life, and learning that happiness doesn't come from the outside, but it comes from within. I've been very lucky because my sister had worked at the Four Seasons Hotel for 25 years, and Alicia worked at Four Seasons Hotel too. So without paying the exorbitant sums, I was able to stay in these luxurious hotels because my sister had free nights, and she sometimes, when I was nice to her, she would take me as a reward. The first time was amazing. The second time was so-so. The third time was get me out of here. And the fourth time is, this is not any better than prison for rich people. And every time I see these magazines with beautiful pictures of resorts and blue water and pools and all the luxury and drinks or whatever you imagine, I'm going like, oh my goodness, rescue me now. And the bizarre thing is, this is what many of us actually imagine to be happiness. And some of you will tell me, my happiness is when I'm with my dog outside, when I see my dog happy. I actually do believe you that that's actually happiness that is everlasting and never stopping, except when our dogs die, because they die on us and it makes us really sad. And then we are really not happy. And then it's really difficult for us to gather our energy to be happy again. So no matter what, any kind of feeling of happiness is actually temporary. And you may think this is pretty silly. This is not how it's supposed to be. Well, it's exactly how it's supposed to be. Because if nature made us do one thing and be happy forever, we actually would fail to fulfill our main role, and that's to procreate and be part of this life on the planet. Imagine if you ate just once and you'd be happy forever, or if you made love just once, there would be no children or very little. If you were just happy with just standing at one spot, you would never move, you would never do anything. Animals would just not move, migrate, feed the other animals. Like plants would not grow because they'd be happy with where they are in the seat. So unhappiness is actually, it has a purpose, but it is a serious glitch in how we perceive it, and that we think, or many of us, or I used to think, that it should be there forever. Plus, we are having a hard time to define it because we don't really know what it is. So see the see the example of a fancy resort or the island of Maui as a real test in happiness. And it's about a failure of happiness, the way we imagine it. It's not about failure of happiness in general, but it's about failure of our imagined idea of happiness. It may surprise you. I do not like Walt Disney much. Well, I don't have anything against him as a person, but I don't really like his work. By the age of 3, every girl has princess attire. By the age of 18 or 20, every girl has a dream of marrying Prince Charming that will be perfect and will make her happy, will look after her, will be caring, dearing, will make a lot of money, will be handsome, will be the prince. Unfortunately, Disney very rarely occupies himself or the company by showing people real life. One of my dear friends, Anna, in Maui, she's a wedding photographer, and she loves it. And she does an amazing job in wedding photography. But I always wonder when we talk, I said, how can you deal with that when you know that what you're taking pictures of is some sort of delusion, that it is not real life, that it is the pretense of happiness. And some of these people and couples may actually end up really happy. I'm not saying that they shouldn't and they won't, but many of them actually, at least half of them, will divorce and will be very, very unhappy because they have not been given any template or any education in how to actually nurture relationships and how to expect them not to be perfect. And that is a problem. So remember that 100% happiness would be an awful thing. If I make you smile for a week, you'd hate me. That we are genetically programmed to unhappiness because that's who we are and there's a purpose to it. So the best way to be unhappy is actually, the best way to be happy, no, that was a Freudian slip. The best way to be happy is to get used to unhappiness, to be ready to be unhappy, because it's easier to deal with. Now, the first step that I promise I'll take you through, because I'd like to believe that I'm at least 80% happy and then 20% unhappy, and then you don't want to be around me the 10% of the time, because that when I'm unhappy, then I'm unhappy. But the first thing that we need to do, and what I've done when I was creating my new life about 10, 12 years ago, actually, I did a little bit of an inventory. And there is a Facebook Live from a few weeks back where I talk about my life and what I did and how I transitioned. But now I want to focus on you. And I focus on you because I want your dog to have a healthy and happy life. And without your happiness, your life will, or your dog will not be as healthy. And this is not to suggest that you're not happy. Maybe you're happy and you don't need to really listen to all this. And if you think that there is something to improve, then this is for you. How do you do life inventory? Well, it's relatively simple. You basically just see what you have in your life. You see what you have in your life, and then you do the whole inventory by making a list. And you can even start now or today. And that's the first point. Make a note, make a list of things that you have in your life. And it can start with work, start with your dog, start with your people, things that you do, things that you would like to do, and things that you don't have and would like to have. And so you do that and you make a list that can be 1 mile long, I don't care. But then you start checking or crossing over the things that you don't want to have in your life. And it may surprise you, it may be your work, or it may surprise you, it may be one of the people that you live with. And I will not say you should cross them off and leave it right there, because I'm a big believer in gradual transitions and really exploring the possibility that your idea that you don't want to have certain person or certain things or certain job or certain activity in your life may not be exactly accurate and may be based on a temporary state. Or it may be based on the state of your unhappiness. It has nothing to do with the other people or things. So make sure that you don't rush to sudden decisions. I've had several people in my life, whether it's friends and family members, who just kind of decide one day that they want to move from one place to another, and they sell everything and they move to a different place, and then they realize that they actually were wrong, and it's more difficult for them to come back. Or people change their job and then they struggle financially because they kind of go, okay, I don't want to be chiropractor anymore. I want to be wedding photographer, and I'll do it cold turkey. Or in my case, it would be like, I'm burned out from the practice. I've done enough work and I love it, but I want to transit to helping more people and differently. If I sold the practice, stopped the practice, and started building internet or online company, I'd be in big trouble, right? So make sure that you don't change your life too drastically and sit on it. I've had at least 2 or 3 opportunities in my life where I could make a very rash decision. And if I did, I'd be in trouble. Actually, my life would be a mess. So make sure that you don't make rash decisions. The next thing, when you do your inventory, take a yellow highlighter or green highlighter or pink or purple, whatever color you like, and highlight the things that you love the most. Those should be the things that you lose yourself in. You know, when I start editing photography, or when I start formulating a formula or reading some sort of interesting article about health or longevity or whatever it is, I forget about time. Alicia can say and confirm that sometimes she calls me, Peter, where are you? Like, we have a meeting. And I say, I'm so sorry, I got lost in researching this topic. And Alicia is always very kind with me, sometimes strict, but kind. She forgives me, right, Alicia?
Always.
Alicia is the person who holds the order in our company. It's lovely. I so appreciate you for that. Anyway, where you lose yourself in time is super important. For some people it can be flying. For other people it can be playing instrument. For someone else it can be I love writing. I sometimes just kind of, I go in nature somewhere, take my laptop and I write. And I don't even edit because at the end I go like, it almost feels like I didn't write it. So those are the elements that we need to really nurture. And that is ultimately what you may want to do in life, or at least make part of your life and a big part of your life. J.K. Rowling is obviously a very successful person who could have as well failed if she didn't do what she loved. And there are many people in our world that just simply do what they love. Famous people, Oprah, or singers, actors, people who do architecture, garden, or I know someone who really loves cleaning or organizing. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's not about the other people. You shouldn't really think of, I'm gonna do this because my parents want to. If I did what my parents wanted to, and especially my father, I'd be actually an architect. And the funny part is that when my dad decided for me that I should go into architecture, registered me into kind of like high school kind of pre-program for architecture, I secretly went and I changed my subject to agriculture and biology. And I didn't tell him. If you're not sure what to do, and I know that some of you may not be sure, I recommend you reading this book from Wayne Dyer. He's actually from Maui. He passed away, but it's an old-fashioned book, but it's a lovely book, if I remember well, because it was at least 12, 15 years ago I read it. But it is a great book to get inspired what you should be doing. And I know that there is something that you love. You just may not be aware of it, or you may think that you may not be able to make a living from it. And that is not true. I can guarantee you it is not true. So, when people die on deathbed, English, they usually regret that they didn't live their truth. They were working too hard, that they didn't express their feelings, they didn't stay in touch with their friends, and not allowing themselves to be happier. And part of it is that they don't live and love and do what they love. So how do we prepare for the transition to different life? I know that many of you have family, mortgages, jobs, parents in certain locations, senior parents. You don't have immigration visa if you want to live in a different country, or you are afraid to jump. In my previous life webinar, I call it, I talked about the fact that I meditated when I was kind of getting ready for my transition. I meditated, and I saw a vision of being in the box, and I was trying to pry the walls open, and I was not able to open the black box. I was pushing and pushing, and I couldn't open it, and suddenly the walls fell. But there was another obstacle. I was on top of a waterfall, and I was afraid to jump. And I realized that there was an analogy to my life. So prepare for the transition, and you do have to dare to jump. You have to dare to jump at certain point. But the transition should be gradual. It should not be sudden, as I said, because sudden transition can bring more hardship than you really want to. But also the transition should take one thing into consideration. Many people, when they plan their happy life, they have a dream of bigger house, better car, more holidays, more travel, more fancy purses, shoes, boats. I don't know what else. The problem is, as you know now, that happiness is temporary. And all these things will actually make you happy only for a fraction of a time. But then you'll be stuck with the credit card debt or loans or big mortgage. And what will actually happen is that it'll make you less happy to need to work more to pay the loans off for the things that you bought and made you happy only temporarily. Some of you may have heard the story of the fisherman that lives happy life in the village, and then a tourist comes to the village and says, "Why don't you just catch more fish?" And he says, "I don't want to catch more fish. I catch as much as I need, and then I spend time with family and my wife and my kids, and I really like it." And the tourist says, "Well, but if you caught more fish, you could actually buy more boats, and then you would have a whole flotilla, and that you have a big company, and that you would have a big office in New York City, and you would direct the fishing all over the world. So one day you can retire and live a happy life in the village with your family." And that's what that's the craziness of this whole thing. And if there's one thing that is really positive about COVID-19, it actually possibly is making us realize that this is how life is. This is what kind of life we've been living. I love the idea that when something bad happens, at least perceptionally, or when something that we perceive bad happens, that it actually can be bad or it can be good. And nobody knows until the future shows. So, yeah, I remember that, and I'm not necessarily saying that all material possessions are bad. In 2008, I had a dream of not buying another gasoline car. And by that time, my car was about 10 years old, and I had about 5 years to go before Tesla launched their Model S. And I thought, I'm going to put a $500 deposit or $1,000 deposit on Tesla S. And then I waited and waited and waited. And then 2013 hit, and I didn't have enough money to buy Tesla S. And I decided to take a loan because there was a bigger dream. I didn't want to support the gasoline industry. And so I did buy the first Model S. And it made me feel extremely happy and continues to make me happy because I feel like I'm actually helping a bigger cause and I'm supporting something that I really believe in. So when there is that kind of driver behind it, I'm not saying that material things can't make you happy. Or if you love yoga or meditation or whatever you do, or painting, building a studio or having a dream of a studio is not a bad thing. Or having a good camera that you can take amazing pictures. But just rest assured that the camera will just be another camera and the car will be another car, no matter whether it's Tesla or something else. So now when we kind of have gone through the important parts of preparation, I'd like you to prepare for the transition. It has to be gradual, in my opinion. Some of you may have been lucky succeeding with quick fix or quick transition, cold turkey, but it's also a problem when it's too slow. When I decided to sell my practice and start my online company and help more dog lovers in a different way, so I have freedom and can help, the advisor that I dealt with said, "Okay, let's make a 5-year exit plan." And I said, I remember it was like someone sliced me open. I thought, absolutely not. This is not possible. And so I gave myself a goal of having the practice sold in 4 months, and I did it. So don't be afraid to make daring goals, and maybe a little more daring than you would dare to dare. But also don't let others to discourage you. There is some sort of weird thing about friends, family members, and people. Let's assume that they're unhappy, at least with some parts of their life. And even though they love you and they want your best, when they start seeing you being successful in your life or creating the life that possibly they would want, they will try to come up with reasons why you should not be doing what you do. I've been told so many times that I'm irresponsible, that I abandoned my clients, that my ideas of life are unsustainable financially. If I listen to all the naysayers, I actually still would be sitting on my ass in the very polluted industrial town in a very poor region in the Czech Republic. And Czech Republic is now actually a quite amazing country, 10th safest country in the world and quite prosperous. But I still would not want to live my life in the polluted town or used to be polluted town at the border. I would miss out on so many things. And one day I'd be dying and I'd say, I wish I did what I wanted to do. So don't let others to tell you that you shouldn't be doing certain things. Just don't simply listen to them. Because while they love you, they may actually have ulterior motives why they don't want you to make change. Maybe they want you to stay in the town where you live. Maybe they want to share the misery with you and complain together with you. Maybe when they start seeing you being successful, they'll be jealous. For me, the biggest difficult part of success actually, and kind of enjoying life more than before and having 80% happiness, came with the shock of actually losing quite a few of my friends. And even though I wanted to share things with them, or I would buy them an air ticket to visit me in Maui or do whatever, quite often it would end up with some sort of weary, unexpected, strange reaction, until I realized that even though I could blame myself for everything in those regards, it possibly wasn't all about me. So don't let people tell you what is good for you. Please don't, because they do not understand what you like. My dad didn't know that I wanted to be a vet and that it was the best thing for me. Even though I love architecture, sure, it's nice, but I would not be the same person. When you're making your decisions, that's another really kind of important point. There's only, decisions are like computers. It's either 0 or 1. That's the system that the computers work on, 0, 1, 0, 1, and that's how they operate. Our decisions are always about 0, 1, 0, 1, or left, right, left, right. Imagine that any part of life is actually a fork, or it can go straight, and then suddenly there's a fork, you decide left and right, and then you decide left and right again, and you may decide left and right 10 times a day or once a year. But it's always just left and right. And sometimes people tell me, and decision-making is kind of common in veterinary medicine when people decide what they should do for their dogs. They say, I don't know what to do. And first I tell them it's only one or the other. Even though there's 3 options, you always should be deciding about this or that, and then you decide between those next ones, right? But even better way to do it is to actually put those 2 options on a piece of paper, on a sticky note, and look at them. I can guarantee that you will be attracted to one or the other. And if you're not, email me, I'll see what's going on, or email someone else you trust. It's really interesting to see how complicated we make it and how simple it is. So I always just, I'm a really fast decision maker. I don't really know whether it's part of my professional deformity that I needed to make decisions fast in the practice, but it is quite easy. And if you don't know, if you're unsure, and that may happen, what do you do when you're not sure, when you are at the fork? You kind of stand still, you look at the map, you think about it. You may go back a little to gain a perspective. You don't always need to choose A and B. You can stand still. I am a big proponent of when unsure, stand still. It's a really good thing to do. So the next thing is about being stubborn. I can't even tell you how many times I got a no, and if I took the no, I would not be where I'm at today. I wasn't admitted to vet school. Canada refused me the first time around because I was a veterinarian and I wasn't a veterinary attendant. So I applied as a veterinary attendant and I was accepted. There's so many different ways. Or, one time I was crossing the border and I found a grumpy customs officer and he took my Nexus card, which is my fast pass to go back and forth between the United States, I could let them take it. I applied to have it reassigned because I knew that I didn't do anything wrong. Every time there's something happening or someone tells you no, in my world, it means yes, but later, except when it means no. Obviously, we can't cross people's boundaries. Like I used to say this without the except, and people got really mad with me. Well, sometimes no means no. And I understand that no means no. If someone says no, don't cross my boundary. But when a government office tells you, you're not eligible for immigration to Canada, why don't you just say, what if it is yes, but later, and keep trying? But sometimes when you keep trying and you get the same results, they say that it's a definition of madness. When I had my holistic clinic and I had it for 10 years, I was very determined that I will make it work without selling drugs and processed food. And then I got busy, really busy, but I also wanted to have long appointment times because I wanted to really do a good job with my patients. My model was not sustainable. I was making actually no money, even though I was billing reasonably. I was not making any money because I was not selling drugs and I was not selling kibble and I had long appointment times. If I kept doing this for the next 20 years, I would not be able to help anyone because I would go under. In 2014, when about 6 years after I started my company, we kind of saw that the income sources were not really reliable. And I had a really successful product line already, but people didn't learn about it. So we decided to switch to a different web store and we lost all our traffic for about 2 weeks and we almost went under. And most people would say, okay, that's it. What I did, I actually tweeted this CEO of $1 billion company, Shopify, and basically treated him a message that I worked really hard on getting my company off the ground. And now, because they didn't deliver on their promise, I may lose my company. The CEO saw it, he helped us to solve the issue, and we are here today. So don't always think that no or some sort of failure must be accepted. It actually is much better if you say, if you're stubborn, be stubborn, 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 double stubborn, triple stubborn. So how do you stay on course? How do you stay on course? How do you stay on course? I love to be scientific and sometimes I like to be spiritual and metaphysical. And around the time I left my clinic, I also had a reading by astrologer. I was just curious and I don't necessarily know what is real and what is not, but I also know that it was very interesting. And the astrologer told me, you're going to have a really good life, but it's going to be hard and everything bad that may happen will probably happen, from injuries to disasters to close to bankruptcy. Whatever is going to happen is supposed to happen, is going to happen, or can happen, will happen. And I was terrified, but I also kind of stuck to you're going to have a good life, but it's not going to be easy, especially during the first 7 years, which proved to be exactly that, which blows me away anyway. And it made me realize that maybe what happiness is actually to persevere and to start feeling your power of intention and how you can actually go through life in a better, less kind of surrendered way, even though we should surrender to life to a certain degree. But it doesn't mean that when you're floating in the boat, when you're swimming, that you don't know what direction you're swimming, right? You paddle, you swim, but you have to know the direction. One of the biggest challenges that I had was that I was full of self-criticism, and still I am. Going on Facebook Live and having a conversation with you would be absolutely unimaginable 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And if I tell you that 30 years ago, when I was at the university, I would not be able to stand up in front of other people in public. you probably wouldn't believe me, but that's how I was. We are our biggest judges and critics. We are basically our own enemies. We are the monsters on the journey to where we want to be. But judgment is not to be pushed aside. The only thing that we can do is to be aware of that we are of the fact that we are judging ourselves. There's one book that I really, really, really love, and I would recommend to you, besides Wayne Dyer's book. I have many books and audiobooks, but this is one of my favorites. And it's by a Buddhist monk, Adyashanti. He's an American who is a Buddhist monk. And he's one of the most enlightened people that I know, even though he doesn't say that he's enlightened. He actually says that if he said he was enlightened, it would not be enlightenment anymore. But anyway, he actually taught me how to observe my emotions. He also taught me how to accept the fact that whether it's anger or happiness or joy or frustration, that those are just emotions, and that they're not any different. They're just emotions. They become different when we give them a different label, or when we think that being angry is actually not good. I get angry sometimes. The thing is that I have to know how to steer that anger, and that I should probably just go for a forest to walk, or go for a bike ride, or meditate, or do yoga, as opposed to hurting someone else. Because we all have that. And the more suppressed these emotions get, the worse they get and the stronger they get. And that's how they become violent. So he actually is amazing in saying, when you get angry, just observe it. Look at the anger or frustration or happiness or joy as things, and look at them and observe where you feel them, and almost look at them as if they were an object, and you just kind of look at them. It's really cool to actually have that level of awareness. And I'm very grateful that I ran across this book some time ago. Allow your negative emotions to flow. If you don't, they will build up. In the practice, I taught my clients, dog lovers, how to deal with fear of losing, how to deal with grief. I've learned that myself. Obviously with Sky, I was able to experience it firsthand. And I usually say that when you have that fear, and if you're afraid of losing your dog, I want you to, just for a moment, to feel where you feel that. And then then notice that most of the time when we have that feeling, we actually try to push it away. And I invite you this time to actually imagine that that feeling has a volume button, and you turn the volume up. And you try to make it stronger, 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 until it disappears. It does disappear. It's crazy, but it disappears. Fear does not like to be noticed. It likes to be pushed away. It's like, push and pull kind of game. But if you face it, it's going to disappear. It's also good to achieve your goals through being a little superstitious. I had a goal of stopping my mom from smoking. That was about 20 years ago. And I had no idea how to do that, because she was obviously addicted to smoking, and I didn't have any power over her. But I knew that she was superstitious. So one day I came up with the idea that I would tell her that every time she lights up a cigarette, I said, Mom, if you imagine, I didn't even say that would happen, but I said, imagine if you lit up a cigarette, and every time you do that, it would take take a day of life of someone you love. I didn't even give any more concrete details. Imagine that would happen. Imagine what happened actually when mother stopped smoking. And when I say this story to someone, they say, when you blackmailed your mother, I said, I don't really care whether I blackmailed my mother. She was smoking, she would be dead, and now she's 85 and she's still alive. So sometimes we just need to reach for those tools, right, to help others. But it's an extreme kind of example. But if you if you have a goal, if you create a goal in your life, and you know that you're going to sabotage it, that you have a New Year's resolution, and then a month later you're going to probably abort it. You can create something like that. You can create, you can even say, if I finish my year of everyday yoga, something good is going to happen, right? I actually am at month 7th of everyday yoga, and I am having a hard time to believe that I've done that. I don't even have an idea. I don't have any superstition about what would happen if I didn't do that, but I'm just kind of, I don't know. I just love being obsessive about something like that. The other thing, remember that pressure and hardship is good. I noticed that many people who have a little bit of hardship in life do actually better. And I also know that millennials who've had pretty much everything in life, there are many good people. We have actually several millennials in our company. They're lovely and kind of exceptional. But many millennials, they don't even know what to do when they can't get something in the store and buy it on demand and have it the next day. One of my nieces proclaimed one day, "It is so traumatic when I look up something on the internet and then I go and buy it and they don't have it. It's so traumatic. It's the biggest trauma for her." She considers that traumatic. How about finding it? How about making it? How about doing something about it, right? The other thing that is part of creating good life is actually knowing and having when we have enough. Knowing when we have enough is actually really cool. We live in a 1,500 square foot house. I know that some people live at 400 square feet house or apartment, and some people live in 12,000 square feet apartment or house. It does not make us any more or less happy, but it does make us happy if we have a yoga studio or space to go to, but there's always a solution about it. The other thing, how to make things happen, your goal in life happen, is to create daily habits. Just create a schedule. For me, it is get up in the morning, go for a dog walk, prepare Facebook Live. Then I know that after that, I'll do my yoga practice. Then I'll go for another dog walk. Then I'll have a dinner with my family. Create a plan for every day if you can. And be kind to yourself when you fail to deliver, but don't take excuses. It was because someone rang the door, or it was because it was raining, I didn't go for a walk. It was because I felt a little tired and I didn't do my yoga. It was because there was a better show on the TV than doing yoga, right? Meditation is kind of cool. I gave you the example, what I discovered in meditation. And what else did I not tell you? I feel like I've been talking for almost an hour and I think I should stop. But remember one more thing, that our brains are automatons. They're automatic machines. And the cortex accepts whatever idea you have, but then it has to get automated. If it doesn't get automated, and it takes actually more than 3 weeks, you may fall out of the habit. I know that I'm habitually addicted to yoga or to writing or to dog walking. I know how it feels. I can't get it out of my system. But it's also as easy to get addicted to negative addiction. So I think that it's not about trying not to be addicted. It's about creating addictions to the right things. And you have to be really hard and uncompromising with yourself and not blame others and other things for the fact that you failed. And also catch yourself when you actually, how you feel when you see someone achieving their goals, whether someone on TV or someone in your life. Are you jealous? Are you unhappy? Are you happy for them? But still, are you thinking, man, like I wish I was as good or I was as successful in what they're doing? And it's not the Lamborghini. It's more about the fact that they actually know that they have enough and that they love doing what they're doing and that they are happy, right? So that's about it for today. Next time, I'd like to talk a little bit about exercise and fitness, and then I'd like to talk about nutrition for people, and then about people in my life. I'm actually preparing a recording of interviews with some people in my life. And if you are planning to comment on my Facebook, you're not talking about dogs and medical care, and I don't really like it, tough love. Because part of happiness is when we do what we love without doing what other people want us to do. So be yourself. Don't listen to others what to do, and make a plan and asking questions. And thank you so much for being part of our community. And if you have any questions now, we can open the questions.
Thanks so much. We have a couple of comments rather than questions, but one of the community members, Moda, she said something along the lines of, I think this was about your comment to do with Disney. She said, fantasy can be fun, perspective is critical. Being creative, I love using my imagination as it helps to disconnect or reconnect. Do you want to maybe expand on imagination and your creativity and how that gives you joy in life? Because I feel like that's a big part of our company, as well as helping dogs. It's being creative and fun and playful with it.
Thank you so much for this idea and thought. Absolutely, imagination is important. I think that I would really wrong Disney and his ideas if I said that it was all wrong. Obviously, ideas, imagination, dreams are fun and wonderful. They're part of it. My team, sometimes I drive my team crazy because I'm an idea person. I'm the happiest when I can have ideas. I'm the happiest when I am in that flow. And sometimes it's almost overwhelming. You're like, oh, too much. But I've learned to organize the ideas and just kind of put them on the back burner or give them to my team or just kind of decide what the priorities are. There's one thing that I didn't mention, and that's slow multitasking. Some people say we should always focus on one thing at a time. But I don't think that it's realistic. And most people who are really successful and they achieve making a difference in the world, they actually slow multitask. Whether it was Da Vinci, who had his hands in sculpturing and painting and design, to Elon Musk, we know what he's doing, right? So it's slow multitasking. But I'm sure that there are opinions about what is too much and what is not enough. Ultimately, if we are happy and if we are functional and if our life doesn't fall apart completely, and if we don't neglect those we love and family and children and dogs, then it's okay. If it starts affecting and altering the flow of life, then it's a problem. But I'm so in agreement with the idea that imagination and ideas are where it all starts, and that's important.
Great, thank you. We have another comment from Alessi. Alessi says, thank you for this discussion. Sometimes when we hear it from someone we don't know, we can hear better. I guess just getting to know you better makes it easier to understand your messaging when it comes to dog health and everything in general. Her comment as well included, why not strive for balance? That way you can elevate to happy, but when a valley strikes, you don't feel overwhelmed. Setting small goals that you can attain helps you keep moving. And with this comment, I guess my proposal is maybe, is it possible to discuss what happens when people do feel overwhelmed or disappointed or maybe fall into depression? How do we navigate that when we're really striving for happiness and improving our lives?
It's all about balance, absolutely. And and maybe it didn't come across as much as I wanted to. When it comes to happiness, part of happiness is unhappiness, because without the unhappiness, we would not be able to even perceive happiness. It would be just a flat line. So the roller coaster is very common. We just need to make sure that the lows are not more frequent than the highs, then it's a problem. So I would not say that it's about balance of unhappy and happy. I think that the ideal kind of balance is 80-20. I love the 80-20 rule. And one of the people that I really admire, Neil Pasricha, actually, he's a Canadian. I have a, you can look him up, Alicia or Christina. He's got a book which is called The Happiness Equation. I will actually show the screen here. And he also has 9 secrets to happiness. I put them here and then I didn't share it. Anyway, it is about the balance. It's about the mix actually of happiness and unhappiness. The second part of the question, Alicia, what was it? What did you ask? You said if you could elaborate.
Yeah, just in terms of being able to navigate the low points, because we're always striving for happiness, but we all hit roadblocks sometimes. So how do we best navigate those roadblocks so that we don't fall into depression or feeling like we're not good enough or we can't achieve our goals?
Yeah. The first thing that I think happens in depression is that people think that if we are depressed or if we feel low, that there is something actually that we are not good enough. There may be something wrong with us sometimes biochemically, right? Like I think that when people get older biochemically, they don't function as well. Or if there's a severe trauma or stress or loss, it can really take us down. I think that professional help is always good. Therapy, meditation, yoga, sports. I usually resort, if I feel low, I resort to yoga and sports and talking to people I trust. That's my support network. And I try not to jump to conclusions and decisions and try to remind myself that just because I feel low, I'm not a bad person or there's something wrong with me. And that if we really could peek behind Facebook and Instagram accounts, that we would see that most people go through the same ups and downs as we do. And sure, we sometimes want to share the nice things in life to make us feel positive and not sound like bad news, but just kind of believe that it's okay. And how, as I said, like it's the how really practically I go, okay, I'm feeling scattered, or I'm feeling like things have not gone well. I'm gonna go for a bike ride or dog walk, or I give my dog a massage, or I talk to a friend. And some people say, we should not complain, but I will disagree. I think that sometimes good bitching is actually really, really helpful. It's like therapy. It shouldn't be too much. And if we just kind of make the purpose of our life complaining, that's a different story. And talk to people that you have in your life. I will be giving you some names and ideas next time about people in my life, about those who I really appreciate and care about. I'm kind of secretly hoping that we'll be able to do some broadcasts with them more on regular than irregular basis. And just remember that I'm doing all this because not only I think good life is fun to talk about and hopefully create, it's also good for our dogs. They're so trying hard for us to have good and happy life, right? And show us that it's actually really simple, that it is really about the dog walk in the forest, right? Or even the muddy feet or the muddy paw prints or even the eaten cake from the coffee table by a dog. Or the pee on the carpet this morning. Oh my goodness. Pax peed on the carpet because we have a visitor dog and he actually loves him. But the visitor dog peed on the carpet. So guess what Pax did? Peed on the carpet.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're so right. When it comes to our dogs, I think they're probably the best expression of that simple, genuine happiness. And if we're having a hard moment, getting down on the floor and just playing with our dogs for 5 minutes usually is a great way to lift our spirits. We have one more comment that I definitely want to share. It's from Neil Rice. Neil says, I'm so surprised by this content. I like surprises like this. Thank you so much for the lift. So I wanted to share that with you. And I know we're getting towards the end of time. So one suggestion, perhaps just before we close, is so far we have posted some links to the books that you've mentioned during the broadcast. And maybe the community members that are tuning in now or are tuning in later, can post some books that they love about happiness along the same lines, so that the whole community can enjoy, a great selection of great resources to learn more about this sort
Materials,
of thing.
absolutely. One thing I forgot to say, and thank you so much, Alicia, for pointing to it. It's so important to be open to learning. The biggest fear in my life is actually not to become a grumpy old man who thinks that he knows everything. I see that in my generation, we already stop wanting to learn. So be open to learning, accept that we don't know what we don't know. Because if we don't accept that, we just become righteous and boring and dull and grumpy and feel like the world is against us. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the comment. I'm glad that at least some of you find it helpful. Please subscribe to our newsletter, because if you subscribe to our newsletter, you will be notified about all the different materials, learning, events, whatever we do. And thank you so much for caring for and loving your dog. And thanks, Alicia and Christina, for helping me to moderate. And we will be back next week. It will be more focused on dogs. And then the week after, we'll focus again on giving your life the best shot. Take care. Bye-bye.